Chapter 3. The Church. Sally didn't know the proper way to enter a church. Do you knock, like at someone's house? Or walk right in, like the grocery store? Or wait in line for someone to come and get you, like at school? The doors themselves didn't give her any clues. They were deep red wood, with 3 little square windows way up high on each side, so high that Sally couldn't see through them. While she was standing there deciding what to do, a mom with 3 boys walked up behind her. The boys were arguing over who left the skateboard in the driveway and whose fault it was that Dad drove over it with his pickup truck. The shortest boy said, "Maybe Dad will buy us a new one." "Fat chance," spat the tallest boy. "The divorce is eating up all his money." The mother either ignored the comment or didn't hear it. She had a grumpy, worried look on her face. "Joseph, be a gentleman like I taught you and open the door," she scolded. The tallest boy grumbled. "Please," he scowled. "Please," she said softer. Joseph let out a humph, but pulled the left door wide open. The mother said "Thank you" and walked through. Joseph let go of the door and walked in. The shortest boy rushed through it as it slowly closed, scowling at Joseph. "I think he'll buy us one," he said defiantly. "Don't count on it, Elijah," said the middle boy, catching the door before it closed on him. Sally couldn't tell if the middle boy was grumpy or sad. She was staring at him when he looked down at her and motioned with his hand. "Are you coming in?" he said. Sally was startled, but found her wits quickly and rushed through the door. As she did, she tripped on the edge of a throw carpet and fell on her hands and knees. She stayed there, stunned for a moment. "Good one," the boy said calmly. "I'd give that a 9 out of 10. Best trip I've seen all day." Sally was so surprised that she forgot to cry. The boy leaned down and picked up Rafa as he gave Sally his hand. "Your kitty thought that was fun," he grinned, helping Sally stand and slipping Rafa back in her bag. Sally liked his face much better now that he didn't look grumpy sad, and was glad that her trip had made him grin. She smiled shyly and managed a "Thanks." "You're welcome," he said, looking around. "Where's your mom?" My mom," Sally sputtered, thinking fast. "My mom's—" She turned and pointed behind her out the slowly closing door. "Back there." It wasn't a lie, really. Sally knew her mom was back at home now, serving up the mac and cheese for Rennie's special dinner, and her home was out there somewhere. The boy seemed satisfied with this answer and reached out to give Sally knuckles. "Later," he said, as Sally touched her knuckles to his. Then he turned and went the same way his brothers did, leaving Sally standing in the middle of a little square room, wondering what it was. Before Sally could start thinking about the special dinner her sisters would be eating right now, a door straight ahead of her flew open, and a round little lady in a wheelchair came rolling in. Sally liked the way her blonde hair bounced and her green eyes sparkled as she hummed a happy tune. "Hi, darling. Where's your family? Can I help you?" she chimed. Sally froze. She didn't know what to say. The thought of mac and cheese lingered in her mind and made her tummy grumble, letting out a loud growl of protest. The lady looked past Sally and furrowed her brow for a moment. Oh no, was she mad? Sally wondered. Did she know Sally had snuck out of the house for a walkabout? Confusion showed on the lady's face as she tilted her head to the right, looking at something out the door. But before Sally could begin talking, the lady's face relaxed, then brightened. She nodded in understanding toward the red doors. Sally meant to turn around and look at who she was nodding to, but just then her tummy grumbled again. "You sound hungry," the lady said, focusing back on Sally. Sally was so relieved that she let out a huge sigh. She had been holding her breath because she wasn't sure how she was going to answer the question of where her family was without lying. Now she didn't have to. "Actually, now that you mention it, I am hungry," Sally said. "Do you like pizza?" grinned the lady. Sally couldn't believe her ears. Of course she liked pizza. Didn't everybody? She pulled out her best "I'm cute" look and said with a grin, "I absolutely, totally, and completely love pizza." That made the lady laugh out loud. She was a happy, sing-songy laugh that made the grumbles in Sally's tummy want to dance. Sally couldn't help but laugh back. "Come with me," motioned the lady, as she went through a door on the left that the mom and 3 boys had gone through. As Sally shuffled behind her, the lady said, "I'm Gwen. What's your name?" Sally replied without thinking, "I'm Sally Morris." "Well, hello, Sally Morris, and welcome to family night at God's place." The door let them into a large room with lots of tables and chairs. The smell of pizza greeted them. Gwen rolled right through to the other side of the room, nodding and greeting people as she went. There were a whole bunch of families sitting around the tables, talking and eating, including the mom with her 3 boys. As Sally walked and Gwen wheeled by, Sally smiled at them. No one seemed to notice but the middle boy, who grinned at her. Sally felt embarrassed, but happy. It was like they had a little secret between them because of her tripping incident. She wondered what his name was. She looked around the room. There were a few teenagers hanging out in the far corner, but mostly the kids who were sitting with their parents looked middle-sized like Sally, and the 3 boys. A few little guys were toddling around or sitting on laps. Sally liked that there were so many kids around. Gwen stopped and called through an open place in the wall. A plate with cheese, pizza, and a juice box slid back through. She handed it to Sally and said, "Where do you want to sit?" "How about over there?" Sally said, motioning to the table with the mom and 3 boys. "Ah, the Pearsons. Those boys are cuties, aren't they?" Gwen said. Sally's face felt hot. Gwen led her over to the table where the mom and boys were. The mom greeted Gwen with a weary smile. "Nancy, I would like you to meet Sally Morris. Sally, this is Mrs. Pearson and her boys, Joseph, Sam, and Elisha." "Just call me Joe," the biggest boy said. Then he turned to his mom. "Can I go to youth group now?" The mom nodded, and Joe took off, leaving Sally a place to sit right in between Sam and Elisha. The 2 boys grinned at her, and Sally noticed how much they looked alike. It reminded her of how people would often tell her and Alex that they looked alike when they were first introduced. But Sally didn't want to think about Alex right now. She was an only child on this walkabout, and she was going to enjoy it. Sally furrowed her brow in determination not to feel sad or guilty. "Everything okay?" Sam asked. "You look constipated." That made everyone at the table laugh, including Sally. "No, I'm okay," she said, smiling. "Just hungry." "You stay here and eat with the Pearsons," Gwen said. "I need to go talk to someone at the side door. I'll be right back." Sally nodded and said, "Okay." Then she remembered her manners and said, "Thank you, Gwen, for the pizza." "You're welcome, sweetie. Be right back." As Gwen rolled away, Sally scooted up her chair and glanced sideways at Sam. He was picking the cheese off his pizza and rolling it into a ball. Sally smiled, then dove into eating her pizza by picking up the whole thing and biting the end. By the time Gwen came back, Sally had learned that Elisha was 9, Sam was 11, and Joe was 14. They lived 3 blocks away from God's place and went to Lindbergh Elementary, just like Sally did. Elisha was going into 4th grade, Sam was a 6th grader, and Joe would be starting high school this year. The boys liked to skateboard and surf for fun, and last month Sam had been in his first theater performance ever. He played Thing 2 in a production of Seussical the Musical. Sally enjoyed hearing about the funny things Sam did with the audience before the show, including heading up a conga line that danced all around the theater. When Gwen rolled up, the boys were telling funny stories about the summer camp they'd just come home from, and Sally was having a really good time. Gwen joined in on the conversation, telling about how Sam tried to skateboard down a hill at camp and ended up in the lake. Sally thought that was hilarious. Apparently, Gwen had been at the same camp as the children's pastor and leader. Sally was enjoying the stories immensely and liked how much she had in common with these people. Gwen's story about how Sam fell in the lake reminded her of how Alex had fallen into the river last summer when they were in Oregon visiting their grandparents. The whole family was at a picnic by the river. Alex was showing everyone her dance from ballet class and lost her balance. It was very funny to everyone except Alex. Sally really wanted to introduce Alex to Elisha and Sam. Maybe Elisha and Alex would be in the same 4th grade class at Lindbergh Elementary this year. Sally imagined herself introducing Alex to Elisha. "Elisha, this is Alex. Alex is short for Alexandria, by the way. which was the name of our great-great-grandmother on our daddy's side, but you can just call her Alex. Sally started to imagine herself and Alex playing on the school playground with Sam and Elisha. She was so engrossed in beating Sam to the top of the monkey bars in her imagination that she almost didn't hear Gwen's question. "So, tell me about yourself, Sally. Do you have any sisters or brothers?" The yes almost leapt off Sally's tongue, but she caught it just in time. "Not today," she said. "Today I'm an only child." Mrs. Pearson looked grieved, and Gwen looked surprised. Sally figured maybe they thought her sisters had died or something, and that's why she was an only child today. Rennie had almost died during her surgery 4 years ago, but Sally did not want to go there in her imagination or with her words, and she definitely didn't want to confess that she was pretending to be an only child today because she was mad at her sisters, so she quickly pretended to choke on her last bit of pizza crust. It worked, and the mood immediately swung from sadness to alarm, with Sam jumping up and trying to do the Heimlich maneuver on Sally. He pulled Sally out of her chair, got behind her, and wrapped his arms around her middle, clasping his wrists together in a fist by her belly button. When he squeezed hard, Sally almost threw up. Gwen intercepted the resuscitation attempt and moved Sam away. "We only do the Heimlich maneuver if someone can't breathe," she exclaimed. Sally was making air noises and coughing. "That means no Heimlich maneuver, Sam," Gwen said, calmer. Sam looked stricken. "I just wanted to use what we learned at camp. I didn't mean to hurt her." He turned from Gwen to Sally. "I'm sorry, Sally." I'm okay, Sally gasped, fighting back tears of pain and embarrassment. Sam stood there awkwardly. Gwen saved the day by hustling the 2 boys out of the room to their art project. Sam glanced back with a look of worry, while their mom cleared the table of paper plates and went off to her meeting. Once Sally had recovered, and Gwen had inspected her belly for any signs of broken ribs, Sally sat back down at the table. Gwen pulled a container out of her bag that held 2 brownies and offered Sally one. Sally absolutely loved all things chocolate and eagerly accepted the invitation to consume the goodie. The room was almost empty now, with a few people cleaning up and wiping down tables. Gwen looked at Sally kindly while licking her fingers from an especially gooey bite. "So, no siblings, huh?" she asked. "I sometimes wish I had a brother," Sally replied carefully. It wasn't a lie, she thought to herself, but if she didn't change the subject soon, she may be found out. Sally couldn't quite read the expression on Gwen's face. Was she thinking hard, or listening to a voice in her head, or about ready to confront Sally because she knew the truth? Sally didn't know what to think and was about ready to run, but she really liked it here and didn't want to leave quite yet. "This is my first time in a church," Sally said, watching Gwen's face carefully. Gwen smiled. "I like it. Good eats," Sally continued cautiously. Gwen burst into laughter, and Sally was very proud of herself for avoiding the sibling subject and for making Gwen laugh at the same time. "Well, in that case, darling, would you like a tour?" Gwen replied. The church was way bigger than it looked from the outside. Off a long main hallway, it had lots of bright rooms full of kids doing art and singing and writing letters to orphans in Guatemala. Sally didn't know where that was, but promised herself she'd look on her world map when she got home and find it. Sally's favorite room was the one at the very end of the long hallway that Gwen called the sanctuary. It had beautiful shades of purple everywhere. There were long purple seats called pews, which Sally thought was a funny name because they didn't stink or smell bad or anything. A purple rug with sparkly fairy footprints woven into it, and a stage that had the hugest purple flower pots that Sally had ever seen. Sally wondered when they were going to put plants in the pots. There was lots of art all around, some with faces of kind men, some with splotches of bright colors, and some with dark storms or red paint dripping that disturbed Sally. Gwen had to whisper in that room because it was half full of adults listening to some gray-haired man talk about some book called Revelation. Gwen leaned in close to Sally's ear and said, "Would you like to see pictures from camp?" Sally nodded and followed Gwen to her office. Gwen's office was colorful and fun, with pictures on the walls of happy kids' faces. Sally thought she saw Sam's grinning face on a couple of pictures, and it made her smile. On the floor were piles of clothes folded neatly. "Sorry for the mess," Gwen said. "We're collecting these clothes to send to the orphans in Guatemala. The team is going to come get them tomorrow." Gwen explained that a team of families from the church went on a missions trip where they helped repair buildings and played with the orphans and brought lots of gifts. Apparently, Guatemala didn't have a Toys R Us or an Albertsons or anything, Sally thought to herself. Sally liked the idea of helping orphans. The generous giving part of Sally was jumping up and down inside and really wanted to be part of it in some way. Before Sally could think herself out of it, she reached into her bag past Rafa the stuffed cat and grabbed her silver dollars from the Tooth Fairy and shoved them at Gwen. "Give this to the orphans, please," she blurted. Her generous giving part was really, really happy and did a good job keeping all the other parts of Sally quiet. Gwen looked like she was going to cry. She carefully stacked the coins on her desk. "Silver dollars, wow! What a precious gift, Sally. Are you sure you want to give all this?" Part of Sally was screaming, "No, you want to buy candy!" And another part was afraid she'd never get any more silver dollars ever again. But Sally's heart felt gargantuan and like it was floating in warm honey. She knew she needed to listen to her heart. Besides, she had more teeth to lose. "Yes, I'm sure. It makes my heart feel good to give the orphans something," Sally said quietly. "Well, thank you," Gwen replied. "You just made God smile really big." Sally smiled really big back. She didn't exactly know who God was, but the sign outside did say this was his place, and her heart liked the idea of making him smile. They both sat in silence for a minute. Gwen carefully placed the silver dollars into her top drawer, and then reached for a photo album that was sitting upright on her desk and opened it. Sally had a question that had been itching in her throat since the moment she'd met Gwen, and she couldn't hold it down any longer. "Why are you in a wheelchair?" she blurted out. "What's wrong with you?" Gwen was a bit startled, but recovered quickly. "Well," she said, closing the photo album, "I have a disease that makes my bones fragile, so they break a lot." Sally was relieved that Gwen wasn't mad. "Can you walk? Have you had it all your life? Do you have to go to the hospital a lot? Are you special needs? Do you have a handicap hangy-parky thingy for your car?" The questions that tumbled out surprised Sally, but not Gwen. Gwen didn't even miss a beat. Sally liked how Gwen's hair bobbed and eyes sparkled while she answered each and every question. Yes, she could walk, but not very far. Yes, she'd had it all her life. She was born with it. She'd gone to the hospital a lot when she was a child, but hadn't broken any bones in the last 3 years. And yes, she was technically defined as special needs and had a handicap placard. Then Gwen said something that surprised Sally. "Everyone has special needs of one kind or another, because everyone God made is special and unique. Some of our needs are just more obvious than others." That was a new twist on special needs for Sally, and she liked how freely Gwen talked to her about it. Most of what Sally learned about special needs was from overhearing Mom talking on the phone to doctors or Auntie or someone. Sally didn't like talking directly to Mom about it because she always felt a little bit left out. "What's dyslexigum?" Sally asked. Gwen looked startled and confused. Sally continued, "Alex, someone I know, has it and has to go to therapy." Sally sputtered. "They help her write her numbers right and stuff like that." Gwen's eyes brightened. "Do you mean dyslexia?" Sally nodded. That's when letters get twisted or switched between the page and someone's brain, so they have a hard time reading and writing certain things. I know people who have been healed of that. "Have you ever had heart surgery?" Sally interrupted. Gwen bounced easily with Sally's 8-year-old train of thought, and wasn't even ruffled by the sudden topic shift. After all, she had been 8 once, and knew all too well the questions that special needs can stir up. "They don't usually do heart surgery for dyslexia," she grinned. Sally thought for a moment, and then got it. A half laugh, half snort jumped out of her nose. "Good one," she smirked. Sally wanted to talk more about special needs, but was having trouble not bringing up her spisters. She tried a different approach. "Do you ever want to be normal?" Gwen almost laughed out loud, but didn't, realizing this was a very important topic for one 8-year-old heart.